A bridge to nowhere, North Korea cuts ties. North Korea's recent destruction of key road and rail links to South Korea has sent shockwaves through the international community. These links, symbols of a fragile peace and potential reunification, are now gone. This act of aggression raises serious questions about North Korea's intentions and the future of the Korean peninsula. The world watches with bated breath, wondering if this is just another provocation or a sign of something more ominous. The destruction of these passages is not merely symbolic, it has profound implications for the region and the world. The world is left grappling with the ramifications of this event, unsure of what the future holds. Is this a step towards war or a desperate plea for attention? Only time will tell. Pyongyang's provocation, a calculated move. The timing of North Korea's actions is particularly concerning. It comes at a time of heightened global tensions, with the ongoing war in Ukraine and escalating rivalry between the United States and China. Some analysts believe North Korea is trying to exploit these divisions to advance its interests. Others see it as a reaction to the recent strengthening of the US-South Korea alliance. The recent joint military exercises between the two countries have been met with fury from Pyongyang. North Korea feels increasingly threatened and is lashing out in response. Whatever the reason, North Korea's actions are a dangerous escalation. The destruction of the transportation routes is a clear message to the world. North Korea is prepared to act unilaterally and aggressively to protect what it perceives as its interests. Severed supply lines. Assessing the military risks. From a military standpoint, the destruction of these links is significant. These routes could have been used by South Korea and its allies to quickly deploy troops and equipment in the event of a conflict. By destroying them, North Korea aims to buy itself more time and make any potential invasion more difficult. However, it is important to note that the impact on South Korea's defense capabilities is likely to be minimal. South Korea and the US have alternative routes and methods for deploying forces. The move is more symbolic than strategically crippling. While the destruction of the links might not significantly impact South Korea's defense capabilities, it underscores the volatile nature of the region. This act of aggression has undoubtedly raised the stakes, increasing the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation. Economic fallout. An isolated nation retreats further. The economic consequences for North Korea are likely to be more severe. The destroyed links were not only a symbol of potential reunification, but also a vital trade route. North Korea relied on these routes for the transportation of goods and resources. The destruction of these links will further isolate North Korea, already reeling under international sanctions. This self-inflicted wound will exacerbate the existing economic hardships faced by ordinary North Koreans. The move underscores the regime's willingness to prioritize its political objectives over the well-being of its people. The long-term economic repercussions of this action remain to be seen. However, it is clear that the North Korean people will bear the brunt of this decision. Global backlash, the diplomatic price of aggression. Internationally, North Korea's actions have been met with widespread condemnation. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting, with member states expressing grave concerns. The United States, South Korea, and Japan have all condemned the act, calling it a provocation and a threat to peace and stability. Even China, North Korea's closest ally, has expressed its disapproval. Beijing has urged Pyongyang to exercise restraint and refrain from further actions that could escalate tensions. The international community is united in its condemnation of North Korea's actions. The destruction of the transportation links is seen as a serious violation of international law and a threat to regional stability. The human cost suffering behind closed borders. While the geopolitical implications of North Korea's actions dominate headlines, the humanitarian cost cannot be ignored. The destruction of these links will further isolate North Korea, making it even harder for humanitarian aid to reach those in need. The people of North Korea are already facing severe food shortages and economic hardship. The destruction of these links will only worsen their plight. The international community must find ways to provide humanitarian assistance to the North Korean people, while also holding the regime accountable for its actions. The situation demands a delicate balancing act of diplomacy and compassion. A cry for attention or a dangerous gamble? Decoding Kim's strategy. North Korea's motives behind destroying the road and rail links remain a subject of intense speculation. Some analysts believe it's a calculated move by Kim Jong-un to strengthen his grip on power. By creating an external enemy and fueling fears of conflict, he aims to rally his people and deflect attention from domestic issues like the struggling economy. Others interpret it as a desperate cry for attention. With the world focused on the war in Ukraine and other global crises, North Korea might be feeling sidelined. By resorting to such provocative actions, it aims to force the international community to pay attention to its demands, particularly sanctions relief. Whether a calculated gamble or a desperate plea, the destruction of the links underscores North Korea's unpredictable nature. Its actions demonstrate a blatant disregard for international norms and a willingness to take risks that could have devastating consequences. The Asian chessboard, regional players react to North Korea's moves. North Korea's actions have sent ripples of concern throughout the region. South Korea, directly on the front line, is stepping up its military preparedness, fearing further provocations. Japan, within striking distance of North Korean missiles, is equally apprehensive, bolstering its defense capabilities. China, North Korea's traditional ally, finds itself in a difficult position. While it doesn't condone Pyongyang's actions, it's also wary of destabilizing the Korean peninsula. China is walking a tightrope, trying to restrain North Korea while avoiding actions that could lead to regime collapse. The destruction of the links has intensified the geopolitical chess game in East Asia. Each player is carefully calibrating its moves, trying to protect its interests in this increasingly volatile environment. The waiting game predicting North Korea's next move. The big question on everyone's mind is, what will North Korea do next? Will it escalate further with more provocations, such as missile tests or military incursions? Or will it use this as leverage to try and extract concessions from the international community? Predicting North Korea's behavior is notoriously difficult. The regime is opaque, and its decision-making process is shrouded in secrecy. However, one thing is certain: North Korea's actions will continue to keep the world on edge, as the stakes in this high-stakes game of geopolitics grow ever higher. The world is left in a state of uneasy anticipation, closely monitoring North Korea's actions for any signs of its next move. The future of the Korean peninsula and the stability of the entire region hangs in the balance. The path forward: diplomatic solutions and international pressure. The international community faces a daunting challenge in dealing with North Korea. Military options are off the table due to the risk of catastrophic consequences. The focus remains on diplomacy and sanctions, hoping to bring North Korea back to the negotiating table. However, years of talks have yielded limited results. North Korea has repeatedly broken promises and backtracked on agreements. The international community needs to find new ways to exert pressure on the regime, targeting its financial lifelines and exposing its human rights abuses. The path forward requires a concerted and coordinated effort from the international community, particularly key players like China and Russia. Only through sustained pressure and a united front can there be hope of persuading North Korea to abandon its nuclear ambitions and engage in meaningful dialogue. Conclusion: a fragile peace hangs in the balance. The destruction of the road and rail links between North and South Korea is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace on the Korean peninsula. North Korea's actions have raised tensions, heightened anxieties, and cast a shadow over the prospects for a peaceful resolution. While the world grapples with the implications of this event, one thing is clear: the need for dialogue, diplomacy, and a commitment to peace has never been greater. The stakes are too high, the potential consequences too dire to allow this crisis to escalate further. The world watches, waits, and hopes for a peaceful resolution. The future of the Korean peninsula and the stability of the entire region hangs in the balance. The international community must act with wisdom, resolve, and a shared commitment to peace to avert disaster and build a more secure future for all.